Hi, everybody. James Escarcega with Freddie Robledo. He's got his UCLA mug handy.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you, Freddie. It's we're actually filming this on Tuesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is our last 2-minute drill of the football season. Although, Freddie, I think the way things are going right now, we'll probably put up a couple more videos before the year is done because everything's just changing. It just changed yesterday, and we'll talk about it quickly with I think the great news that we're going to have sectional playoffs this spring.
Yeah, well, not for football. It's not, football, it all ends this week. But for all of the other spring sports, yes, there will be sectional playoffs for baseball, softball, soccer. We're talking boys and girls. There probably are going to be individual championships once they sort that out. So, yeah, it's going to be a wild, wild spring. And the crazy thing about it is there won't be, as of now, sectional finals host gyms or stadiums for baseball or basketball. They'll all be at home sites, James. So championships are going to be all over the map come May and I think part of June.
Freddie, we're I guess like I said, we're the last week of the season here. Just your overall thoughts on the last 5 or 6 weeks of the year for football. It's been I think we ran the gamut of emotions, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, if you asked us back in November and December if we were going to play football, I know you were 100% no. I was starting to really think that it wasn't going to happen. Things that just looked so bad. I didn't even know if we would have sports at all, even spring sports. But things did turn around quick. I mean, look at where we are right now. I think California is one of the leading states in terms of just lowering the case rate, James. We're doing great right now. So football was able to have a season. They didn't have playoffs. A lot of the leagues, they played a few league games. We're going to talk about a few leagues that are actually playing for championships because there's not a lot of them. But I think everyone, whether you played 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, or you played the maximum 6, I think the whole point this year was playing for memories, not titles. And I think if that was your goal, then you accomplished it.
I think one of the things I found myself at fault was expecting the play to be really good this spring, and it just simply wasn't. I mean, and I know you were at a few games in which, players were dropping balls and everything else, but I think the importance of the game of high school football for me really hit home with me last Thursday when I went to the Sure Montebello game, and I put the video of the photo out of the fans lining up Vale Avenue right behind the stadium. And I mean, there just wasn't 1 or 2 people, Freddie. There were literally 100 people along that street wanting to watch the game, and there was no problems. Everybody was masked up. It was as if there was a party going on over there safely, and there was a football game to follow. And to me, it brought everything home to me. Okay, this is why we're playing ball this spring.
Yeah, and you went to a Sure Montebello game where this was the game of the year. It was a first game, I think, for sure. Was it a second game for Montebello?
Yes.
The second game for Montebello. This was, the city championships, the bragging rights game. And, so in games like that, you're going to have all of those emotions. And we've seen them in different times during the season, James. As far as the level of play, it was going to be different for everyone because some teams, let's be honest with ourselves, were practicing more than others in the winter, even in early January. Some teams were playing club football, and some weren't doing anything and literally really putting on the pads that first week or just getting together that first week. And that's why you saw some teams play 2 or 3 games. You saw some teams, really behind the 8 ball, so to speak, more than others. So it's hard to really judge these teams and judge these programs and say, this is what they are. This is how much they've fallen. This is how much they've risen. In the fall, we'll know. In the fall, everyone will have had the same practice time. Everything should be back to normal. You won't have football players playing in other sports at the same time, which hurt a lot of football teams. There are a lot of football teams like the Gladstones and the Azuses and the Duartes who couldn't field a team because they had players in other sports. They simply didn't have the numbers. You won't see all that in the fall because there are no other boys team sports going on when football is playing. And everyone's going to have that run up and lead time and preparation time for a season. So this one, like I said, it was about the memories. I wouldn't judge these programs too hard on the results. It was just about going out there and having a good time.
And it also speaks to the importance, Freddie, I think, for many of these coaches when they say that, you got to have spring football, you got to have these 7-on-7 passing tournaments in the summer, or passing league, and then training camp. It just speaks to the importance of it, because when you don't have it, the product doesn't look good. And I think these coaches, they were warning everybody, hey, it's not going to look as good. And you see guys like Mike Majori and Frank Mazzota and whatever just kind of shrug their hands and just say, hey, this is all it's going to be. It really speaks to the importance of what the preparation is for coming up to a fall football season.
Yeah, well, this is basically what you're seeing right now. This is the abbreviated spring season. You are seeing those mistakes and those things that you just alluded to. But again, it was about having fun. I think if you look at all the results, sometimes you kind of raise your eyebrows and go, wow, is Bishop Amat falling that bad? Is Damien this good? You look at these 4-team leagues, and that's going to be curious for me when we go into the fall. You look at some of these teams like Ganesha playing in the Miramonte League with, the teams that they're playing with. Diamond Bar and Walnut, they're playing for a league title. When's the last time Walnut played for a league title? So these new 4-league teams are going to create a new environment in the SGV in terms of who's playing for league championships. Baldwin Park in their league, there's not enough games for there to be a league champion, but they're another one who would probably have won a league title this spring had they played all their games. So everything's going to be a little different come the fall, because we're going to have these 4-team leagues in football, James, for at least 3 more seasons. That's what I'm into.
That is correct. You're right. Let's get to the action here, Freddie. Last week of football here, and then we're done. There's no championships, CIF championships to be passed out or anything. No brackets to be looked at over next weekend. This is it. So we'll start with the 2 Thursday games. And Freddie, we'll start with the game you're going to be at on Thursday night. San Dimas at Diamond Ranch for the Valley Vista League Championship. The revised or re-leagued Valley Vista League Championship. I don't think there's a better story. One of the better stories this spring has been the, I don't want to say the reemergence of San Dimas, but boy, they sure have played some ball this year.
Well, this is one of the leagues that when they put it together, Los Altos, Diamond Ranch, Northview, and San Dimas, I thought, boy, this is going to be tough for all 4 of them. You're going to have 2 traditionally good football teams that don't make the playoffs because you put teams that have been good these last 7 to 10 years that I've covered them. These teams are always right there knocking on the door and being in the playoffs. So this is part of the new 4-team leagues where you throw the kind of some of the heavyweights in your area all together and let them eliminate each other. But what we've got here is really a heavyweight championship game, James. San Dimas, I think they've been the surprise of the spring to me, them along with, I think, Pasadena. And the way that they've won, they're undefeated. I still can't get that game against Claremont out of my mind, the way they blew them out. I watched them play against Los Altos, and they just manhandle them. It's not just their offense. This is the best defensively I've seen them play for a while. They really hold teams down. They did it again to Northview this week. I think that was 28-0. They're just hard to score. They're just hard to score on, James. And this is a big test because, Diamond Ranch, they beat St. Paul 16-0. St. Paul, they're not what they've been when we talk about teams in the spring and judging them. St. Paul's one of those programs we're going to have to wait to the fall, but they do have that 16-0 win over them. Their only loss was that close game to Glendora. And when I go back to that close game against Glendora and I look at it now, Glendora just got beat 35-0 by Ayala this past week. I think it was 35-0. Whatever it was pretty bad.
Yep.
So I'm starting to look at this game now and say, who am I picking to win? And I think if you asked me last week, I was leaning towards Diamond Ranch because I think this is just that big of a step up in divisions for San Dimas when you look at where these teams have been and where they're going. But I don't think so now. I think San Dimas' defense, and they're going to score on you, and like that offense is hard to prepare for if you don't see it on a regular basis, James. I like San Dimas in Thursday's championship, even though this game is at Diamond Ranch. And I have San Dimas ranked number 4 in our all-encompassing rankings. I know a lot of people look at that, kind of shrug their eyes and say that's pretty high for a small school like them. But they've been playing well above their weight class, and I think they can prove it on Thursday.
Okay, so Freddie's got San Dimas, and I'll take him as well. It's going to be a close game, though. And I think it's going
That's
to be one
it.
of those
That's it.
games.
Pretty sick. I just give you that whole synopsis on why San Dimas is going to win, and you're just going to tell me I'm going to pick him as well. Give me a thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, it's been, Freddie, I just marvel at the job that Mark Holman has done the last couple of years. Last year they made the semifinals in the playoffs, and they've shown that it was not a fluke by any stretch of the imagination. Now, next year they lose the quarterback, Ryan Bullock, they lose Ty Coleman, they lose, Jacob Picola, they lose a bunch of guys on defense, but the program just seems to always churn.
Yeah.
Always a player every year for the league championship. And don't minimize, Freddie. Eric Martinez at Diamond Ranch is a brilliant defensive mind.
No. They're like I said, they're a very good team. And for San Dimas, you just mentioned those guys that are graduating. This is one of those teams when you say, man, I wonder what they would have done in the fall, because I think this is, I've covered the San Dimas teams that played Monrovia in championships, and, they've had their history over the year playing Paraclete in finals. Not when Paraclete is what they are now, but when they were that good Mid-Valley Division team. This San Dimas team, James, when you add Ty Coleman to what they already had in a third-year starting quarterback on this defense, I think the San Dimas team can stack up with any of them, James. And it's too bad we didn't get to really see a full 10-game season of them in the fall, because I think they would have proved that to everyone.
I remember back in 2000 when South Hills scrimmaged Los Altos, Upland, and South Hills, they called it the Scrimmage of Champions. Mm-hmm. Well, this year's Scrimmage of Champions, if you want to put it that way, was San Dimas and Monrovia. They scrimmaged before they actually played each other, which leads us to the other Thursday night game, which is La Cañada and Monrovia. La Cañada gets the advantage of having a transfer and running back Eben Ostry coming from Rosemead, because the Mission Valley League decided no football this year, so they were the recipient of that. But Freddie, Monrovia, and just another one of those teams. This would have been nice to see what they would have done in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and Monrovia had a game canceled on them at the 11th hour last Thursday night. They were supposed to play Friday against South Pasadena. That was another situation where I tried to reach out to South Pasadena. In fact, I did. I left emails trying to understand why they canceled. From the Monrovia side, it was about numbers, saying they didn't have enough. They just played a game the week before, and Monrovia had that situation happen earlier in league, right? And another team backed out. That's the reason. San Marino. That's another reason why they had to play Paraclete. They stepped up and played a team well above their weight class, and they lost that game, but good for them for playing it. They've had to play Vista. So this won't be a league championship game, but I think it's for league supremacy. I think La Cañada is the next best team in the league, and Ostry is, obviously he's a game changer, and that's what makes this game intriguing and fun. I feel bad that Monrovia didn't have a game last week, and that if you're going to back out, or you might back out, you gotta let these teams know early. I have noticed a trend this spring, James. The teams that back out for non-COVID reasons, and I don't want to be too judgmental, but there are always teams that are going into that game where it looks on paper like it's going to be a blowout. Or
maybe they saw the film on Saturday morning and they go, oh
yeah,
and I don't need to play this week.
And I hope that's not the reason teams are backing out, because they don't want to go in and get blown out, or they figure what's the value in that. The value in that is playing, that these kids wanted a lot of these games. So if you're healthy enough, play. Don't use being on the borderline as an excuse not to play in a lot of these situations. Monrovia only had, I think, 23, 24 healthy players, Chris Williams said last week. They were in the same boat. When San Marino backed out, what did? They took on Paraclete, a team they knew they were probably going to go in there and get their butt kicked against. But they played it because they wanted a game on Friday night. You look at Inglewood, who just beat Muir dropped 70 points on Muir. They had their rivalry game canceled against them this week, and they're looking for a new opponent. Why are these teams backing out against Inglewood? Are they looking what Muir just did? These are things you can do now in a spring season that is not the same as a regular season. Teams won't back out like this in the fall. You hardly ever see this in a regular season.
It doesn't. I hope we're not starting a new president here.
I think we're getting to the point where there's been more cancellations for non-COVID reasons than COVID reasons. And when you think of the let them play and everything they did to get sports going again, my answer is, well, let them play. Find a way. If you're going to get your butt kicked, go in and get your butt kicked. But it's not like Monrovia is this Mater Dei or Servite or superpower that's gonna
St. John Bosco.
or St. John Bosco that's gonna lay it on South Pasadena so hard that they're gonna come out injury riddled after that game. That's not that. It's not that. So if you can play these games, play these games. And this is
taking Monrovia here, by the way, over La Cañada.
I like Monrovia. I've liked them from the beginning. Like I said, their only loss has been to Paraclete. Sierra Vista, the game that was really close. Sierra Vista's proven that they're a pretty good team beating El Rancho. So I do like them. San Marino beat La Cañada. Imagine that.
Actually, South Pasadena.
They beat South Pasadena. Yeah. No. I think San Marino beat La Cañada, if I'm not mistaken. You can check.
No, they beat. I know they beat Burroughs, but no, I believe.
Did La Cañada lose a league game? La Cañada lose one league game?
Yes, they lost to South Pasadena back in week 2.
My mistake.
No, it's all good.
Yeah,
but anyways, we're both taking Monrovia here. And the best part about the fall is we get to see Noah Rodriguez one more time. Freddie, he's a junior this year. We'll see him one more time as a senior next year. Yeah. He's going to be one of those army of quarterbacks in the area that are underclassmen we get to see next year. They're going to be really, really, really good.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 Thursday games. Friday, big lineup of football. And of course, I think the big game, the game that I think everyone on the west side wants to see is the game you're going to be at. I think the world is correct, Freddie, when Pasadena and Muir are playing undefeated in the turkey tussle for the Battle of Pasadena, and Freddie Robledo will be covering the game.
Yeah. I haven't actually covered the turkey tussle game, and I want to say about 10 years. It's always worked out on that Friday night. I've had our Pasadena correspondent, which is usually you, or Donald Morrison. In the past it's been Vincent. We've had those guys cover that game. There hasn't been as much on the line as there is this time. Now, look, this isn't for the Pacific League title. Pasadena has been able to play all 4 of their Pacific League games. They've won them all, and they've won them all convincingly. Muir, this is what you got to look at. Muir has only been able to play 2 of their 4 Pacific League games. 2 of them got teams were pulled out because of COVID reasons. They replaced those with Lucerna and Inglewood, 2 of the best teams in the southern section this year. Look, they got their butt kicked. They got smacked, but had Muir had to play Arcadia, and Muir had to play, was it Burbank that they played?
Yes, coach.
Yes. If they had played those games, they would have blew them out just like Pasadena did. So what we don't know about Pasadena is, are they like Muir? Would they have played Inglewood and got blown out? Would they have played Lucerna and got blown out? Those are things we won't know. What we do know is that against the Pacific League, they've kind of beaten up on those teams in the 2 common opponents they played pretty similarly. And this is the turkey tussle. You throw everything out the window. This is, goes back to that bragging rights game that, you remember the documentary they did about 8 to 10 years ago.
Yes.
This is one game. It's, it's not the Pacific League title, but it is the Pacific League title, because everyone knows whoever wins this game is the best team in the Pacific League this year. I think there's no doubt about that. It's not Crescenta Valley. It's not Burroughs or Burbank. It's certainly not Arcadia. This is the game of all games for the championship, for the city title in Pasadena. And it's going to be at 5:00, and it's going to be exciting. And as we speak right now, I'm going to let you pick first, because I'm not sure who I'm going to pick. I'm going to
take Muir here, just because to beat the champ, you got to beat the champ. I'm picking Muir. You got to beat the champ. So until the champ is thrown, you got to pick. I'm picking the champ here. I just think they're in Pasadena heads, Freddie. I just think so. I mean, there's something to that. But here's the thing: I hope doesn't happen, Freddie. It happened last year. 50 penalties. That can't be happening in a game like this. I hope the officials just let these guys play. And for God's sake, we don't need a 3-hour and 30-minute football game on Friday night, Freddie.
Yeah, let's hope not. That's because a lot of these games sometimes get really emotional, and it becomes kind of a neighborhood game. but it's going to end at some point. The good news is they're starting it at 5. If this was a 7 o'clock game, I think I would be pulling out what little hair I have left. But I'm going to sit back and enjoy it. If it's 3 hours, it's 3 hours. Um, Picking a winner, you'd mentioned the mental ownership that Muir has over Pasadena. I think some of that has been cured to a certain extent by Robert Maxey, who's come in there and joined their coaching staff. And
No doubt about it.
I think they have a different mojo than they might have had in years past going, into this game. I think in past years, Pasadena tried to speak that confidence into existence. I think they have that confidence. I think they're going into this game believing they're better than Muir. I think the worst thing that could happen to Muir was having to play Inglewood and getting 70 points dropped on them a week before this game and having to pick yourself up from that. While Pasadena's on a real high right now, being undefeated. There's something about being undefeated, James, that gives you a lot of confidence too. So it was Inglewood as Lucerna. Losing is losing. That's hard to get out of your head too. I'm picking Pasadena, the confident Bulldogs, to beat the Mustangs on Friday and ring that bell. And they haven't done it a lot. I think they've done it one time in the past 20, I'd have to look, 22, 23 years. They've done it.
I think you're right.
And this is going to be number 2, I think, on Friday night, the Turkey Tussle in April. Say that again.
Oh yeah, it'll be a great game. It will be streamed either by the Pasadena Unified School District, or hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, maybe the people at Fox Sports Net will put this game on the Prep Zone, because it really deserves it. And by the way, Freddie, I hear some of your friends are going to be showing up at the game. They're going to allow some parents and fans in there, if I understand.
Yeah, this will be the first one for either of these schools where they've had fans at the Rose Bowl, and that's a credit to the Rose Bowl for allowing it to happen. I think the door opened last week when LaSalle was able to have a game there and have fans. So there was no way, if LaSalle was going to have fans, you were going to tell Muir and Pasadena you couldn't have fans in their biggest game of the year. And the game that, is the tradition of these two teams playing in the Rose Bowl. So what's right is right. And, they got it right. So we'll see a limited number of fans, limited to family only, just like everyone else. I'm not sure if it's 2 or 4, but the schools will sort it out, and we'll have some atmosphere, which is great.
Okay, so that'll be at the Rose Bowl on Friday. And of course, Freddie will be throwing videos up and having a great old time. For transparency reasons, his folks went to Muir. So that's, if Papa Fred's listening to this or watching this and sees that Freddie's picked Pasadena, he may not be allowed in the house for the rest of the week. I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
And you pick Muir and you're wearing Bulldog red.
You're absolutely right. Hey, contrast and styles. The other big rivalry game of the weekend in our area is the Branding Iron game. Diamond Bar versus Walnut. This is kind of snuck up on us, Freddie, that these teams are undefeated, I understand, going into this game.
I don't know that. I think you'd have to go back to early 90s, maybe.
Yeah.
To think of when these teams were in, I don't know if they were in the same league together. I can't even remember if they were in the same league together.
I want to say they were in the old Sierra League.
Sierra League, yeah. It had to be late 90s, 80s when the Branding Iron game, when they might have played for a league championship. But here we are in the spring. This is part of one of those new 4-league teams that we were talking about earlier. These are all teams that have taken it on the chin the past few years. So, and part of their realignment, they put them all in the same league, and you put Diamond Bar, Walnut, Ontario, Nogales, and here we are. Walnut and Diamond Bar both 2-0 in the Hacienda, playing for a league championship on Friday night. And for Walnut, I don't know when the last time they've played for a league title. Just like Ganesha, it was 30 years in their new 14 league.
I can say, Freddie, it was probably back in 2004 when I was at South Hills in the old San Antonio League.
Yeah, they were good in 2000, so they had some good teams. Walnut.
Yeah, right. with Jerry Pearson as their coach, and they had we can go back in the time machine a little bit, but I believe that's the last time they played for a league championship was back in 2004.
Because you were part of that South Hills staff that played Walnut when they had some pretty good teams. It's gone rough on them, I think, for the last decade plus. But they're both, Walnut is 2-1, Diamond Bar is 3-1. It's going to be a good game. You look at their results and the teams they've beaten, James. The common scores they're pretty similar. But I think Diamond Bar is probably. I think they would probably be just a little bit better, just kind of looking at the scores and the extra game that they had and the way they won it. So I'm going to pick Diamond Bar in Friday's branding iron game for the league championship.
I'll take them as well. They run a wide open offense where Walnut kind of plays the old traditional triple house wing tee once in a while. And I'll take Diamond Bar as well here. It'll be a close game. Jeff Wright's the head coach at Diamond Bar. A colorful character, to say the least. The dude is absolutely, had a chance to watch him play last year when they played when they played Alhambra. A colorful dude, but he knows he's a ball coach. He's a football coach. That's the best we can say about it.
The interesting dynamic here is that the Walnut principal is Ryan Main.
Yes,
the old Diamond Bar quarterback and football coach. So I wonder where his emotions are going to be in this game on Friday.
How can you not remember, Freddie? He was a second team all area pick his senior year.
Yeah, I covered that miracle game when they played Up Down, the infamous five down game.
Oh, really?
Upland in the final minutes on a last minute scoring drive. Yeah, they got 5 touchdowns. They missed a 4th down, so they got 5 plays in a series and got a first down, went in and scored the game winner. I've talked to Ryan, today about that game, and everyone knows that they got an extra down and they went on and they beat Upland and they won a championship, and it was one of the greatest games at Cal State Fullerton I ever covered.
Terry Roach versus Tim Salter. How can you not remember? Holy cow. This other league championship game kind of borders our area. We don't cover these teams as much, but Shavy's taking on Claremont, Freddie. And again, this is another close game, isn't it?
Yeah, another one of those new 4-team leagues. And like I said, Claremont, their only loss on their resume was to San Dimas. They got beat pretty good, obviously. Chafee's a pretty good team. These are really, really like schools like James. I think you can flip a coin and pick the winner here. I think I'm going to go with Claremont, though. Claremont, I forget who it was that they beaten in our area early in the season. They
beat Chino Hills. They shut them out in the first game of the year.
Chino Hills is really struggling this year. So you can't, but I think I'm going to take Claremont over Chafee in this one.
I will as well. So those are the 3 big games, but there's a couple other games we really want to talk about. And Freddie, let's first talk about, I think, the most fascinating game that has ramifications in the offseason. In my mind, I was just thinking about this morning, and that's Damien at Upland. Say what you will about Matt Bechtel and the fact that he took on Bosco in the scrimmage, and then he played Servite in the league opener, which for me was, I didn't totally agree with it, but I'm not running the show. But you have to give them due. They've won 4 in a row. And I think this is the type of game, Freddie, that if Damien wins, and I'm picking them to win, don't be surprised if you see a few players from the Upland area or at Upland kind of trickle over and hit that transfer portal and head over to Damien.
You might be right. Upland, again, Upland's a lot like Bishop Amat, where, Bishop Amat's kind of taking it on the chin in the spring. Sometimes you don't know what to expect. Now, Upland's kind of in the same boat, James. They're 0-3, but look, they've played Mission Viejo, Oaks Christian, and Sierra Canyon. So those are 3 heavyweights.
Powerhouses.
38-14, 27-16. But last week's 37-0 loss to Sierra Canyon is sort of reminiscent of Damien's season opening loss to Servite. And the way they got handled in a scrimmage by St. John Bosco. So I don't think you can look at the records right now. I would think this is going to be Damien's toughest game since playing Servite. Even though the 4 teams they've beaten, are pretty good teams, they're not quite Upland. The baseline league, a lot of teams, this is the only baseline league game Damien is going to play this spring. This is the only road game. First time they're finally leaving Damien after 5 straight home games. They're going to go on the road against Upland. Boy, I wonder who Matt's Cal Preps. I wonder what they're projecting
Um,
they're projecting a 21-14 Damien victory. I do think this is going to be close. You talked about mental ownership earlier when we talked about Pasadena and Muir. Upland has mental ownership over Damien. Those reasons that you said about worrying about losing players coming down here, you don't think this is the game that the Upland coaching staff circled on their calendar and said, this is the one we have to win?
without question.
We are not going 0-4 this spring. You know, losing to Mission Viejo, losing to Sierra Canyon is one thing. We are not losing to Damien because we don't lose to Damien. So I'm taking Upland on Friday to get their first win and to end this 4-game winning streak that Damien is on now that they have to leave the friendly confines of Damien.
Or Dick Larson Stadium. That's what you're supposed to say. Dick Larson Stadium.
Dick Larson Stadium. I'm taking Upland, James.
Okay, I'll take Damien on the split here, but it will be fascinating. If Damien wins, I'm just telling you, Freddie, there's going to be some off-season movement like you haven't seen before because Matt does not, he's not shy about that type of stuff. Remember, he kind of, what was the number, 20 plus transfers he got in
23
this year?
I think it was
so
since 2019 ended to this spring, that was the number he gave me.
Wow. One school that's not taking a whole lot of transfers is Bishop Amat, and they're taking on Notre Dame. Freddie, I had a chance to watch a little bit of this game, of the Amat's game last week against Sarah, and I think the one thing I just took away from it, they looked totally outmanned, and they were just making mistakes that you just don't see Steve Haggerty teams make. And this has to be a feel-good game if they win, because a loss here and there's no mojo in the offseason whatsoever.
Well, when you look at this league, I think the two wins that you would circle early on and feel pretty good about were the Cathedral and the Notre Dame games. So I think they've got to go down there and beat Notre Dame for if anything, just some confidence going into the fall. Bishop Amat is one of those teams. Look, Alamany's a pretty good team. Chaminade, they got their quarterback back, and they've proven to be a pretty good team. We know Sarah's good, but Bishop Amat right now in the spring season, they're not there with those teams. They're giving up way too many points. I don't see the Bishop Amat teams in the fall after they played 5 games. Usually they've tightened the screws and their defense is a lot better, and they don't give up points like this. They usually win these or turn these games into a slugfest. I think they're able to score enough points, James. I just think the problem is they can't keep the opposing defense's offense off the field. They don't get the ball enough. But I do think that they went on Friday, and look, Bishop Amat will have to wait and judge them in the fall. Everything is going to start over. The way CIF does playoff pairings now, it's going to be based on what you do in that season. So I think it's going to have to be a wait and see. Look, they've got a really young team. I know a lot of these guys. They've got a great freshman class. They've got there are a lot of sophomores. They had a freshman running back in the game on this past weekend. I think I'm trying to remember his name. It's just Richie Munoz, I think.
Yes.
He's the other Richie Munoz, not the one at the Sal. He's the one at Bishop Amat. He's the heir apparent at quarterback for Tobin Odell someday. Tobin will be a senior in the fall, and then you're going to look for Richie Munoz, who I just hear so many great things about. He's such a great athlete. They wanted to get him on the field, and he played running back this past game. So they're really young. I think the future is coming. But yeah, they've certainly taken it on the chin this spring. A lot of people are jumping on them, pouncing on them because they took it in the chin, and that's what happens in the San Gabriel Valley when you're Goliath. When you're Goliath and you get knocked down, everybody has something to say about it. But be careful what you woken up. Yeah, I would love to see that Damien Bishop Amat game in the fall.
Wouldn't we all like to see that game, Freddie?
When both teams have had the same amount of time to prepare, when both teams have all of their players together, they're not losing some to baseball or some to soccer or some to this, whatever it is. Let me see these teams on the same amount of practice dates, same preparation. And in games like that, and until someone else can prove it, I take Bishop Amat in games like that. Right now, I think Damien is a better football team in the spring. But man, give me that game in the fall. It's too bad it was canceled this year. I kind of understand some of the off the record reasons why it was canceled. But that's a game in the fall that has to happen. I would love to see La Habra get in that mix and play Damien and Bishop Amat. I want to see the good teams from in our areas play each other. I'd like to see, St. Francis play Damien. Love to see them play Bishop Amat. I think
they played this year.
Huh?
They played this year. They played the last couple of years. St. Francis and Damien.
No, I said that. I said we saw that happen this year. I'd like to see St. Francis
right.
Amat. If I'm Bishop Amat, and like you said, they don't get a lot of transfers. They try to recruit with tradition. They try to bring you in early. The best way to do that isn't to schedule these teams out of the area that there's little interest in. You want to get the best players in the area. You want to create the buzz and get the excitement. And your Bishop Amat, the non-league schedule, you do schedule Damien. You schedule St. Francis. You make sure you're playing St. Paul again. You take on La Habra, which is one of the best, public schools in the area right now. Those are 4 games, James, and then go ahead and play Servite or play a Trinity League school. I understand you're going to play one of those, but you've got to play those 4, these 4 teams that are in the area that you're trying to pull players from, that you want people to look at and read about and say, oh yeah, Bishop Amat still has ownership over all of these schools. That's why I want to go there. That's how you recruit if you're at Bishop Amat, because you're not attracting players to your school the way Damien is trying to pull players to their school. So, the best way to do it, the best recipe is to play them and beat them. So I hope that's what they're thinking about when they put the schedule together next fall.
I think it's called flexing your muscles. Flex your muscles here,
But on Friday night, I'm taking Bishop Amat to the finale.
So am I. It'll be. I'm hoping the game will be streamed online, so I can at least watch a little bit of it on Friday night. I'm kind of interested, so to speak. Notre Dame's got a new coach. Kevin Rooney is retired, and Joe McNabb's new head coach over there. So that'll be Friday night. And then Freddie, I opened the season with you about 5-6 weeks ago at Damien for Servite at Damien. I will bring the curtain down on the season on Saturday night with St. Paul at St. Francis. St. Francis, a huge win over Crespi last week. And I don't know, Freddie, how other than to say it's been a extraordinarily disappointing spring for St. Paul football.
Yeah, St. Paul, they just don't, like Coach Gano would say, they just don't have the bullets in the barrel this year.
Like I said, Freddie, you have to say it the way he says. You don't have the bullets, Freddie. If you don't have the bullets, you're in trouble.
You just don't. They just don't have it. And this is a tough spot for them. I knew when they lost to Diamond Ranch that going into the Angeles League, it was going to be hard to find that win. And I thought Crespi was going to be their best chance, and Crespi took care of them. And then you look at what St. Francis just did to Crespi, and dropping 60 points on them.
Yeah,
last week. And that was a special game, because that was the first game at St. Francis since we can call him the legendary Jim Bonds, because that's how he'll be remembered over there. I think there was a lot of emotions in that game, going back on the field and winning that game for him, or just going out and playing the way that he would want you to play. They really put it on Crespi, and there's just no way, shape, or form they're going to lose their final game of the spring at home to this St. Paul team, James. I think this is a game story you can start filing at halftime, and then just have the final score ready to plug in when the game is over and send the story.
I like that.
That's the truth.
I think I put in a few quotes and I'm done. I'll take it.
Yeah. You might want to get
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think St. Francis is another one of those schools. I can't wait to see him next year. Jack Jacobs back at quarterback, Max Garrison back at running back. He had a huge night against Crespi last week. I think this program is built for the future. I know they like their freshmen that they've got coming in. They had to come in this year. I know they like them a lot. So this is going to be going to, and this is not the last you're going to see at St. Francis. I think they're going to be down the line. They're going to be in the mix. One other game quickly, Freddie, we should talk about on Friday night, which is my fault. Sunny Hills is taking on La Habra for the Freeway League Championship.
How could you forget?
How we could forget about this one here, Freddie?
I was saying to myself, I know there's a game that he didn't mention. What game? And
that's it right there.
Sunny Hills,
and I just want to put this on the record that Pete Caravitas is the head coach at Sunny Hills. He came from Maranatha, turned that program around before Steve Bogan took over. I think Pete is a great coach. He's taken that program at Sunny Hills and put it on a trajectory upward. They won a sectional title last year, but they got to beat the big dogs here, Freddie.
Yeah, and I think they're in a good spot. Look, this is the Freeway League Championship game. They've played a full league schedule, as well as La Habra's looked. Beating teams in the Freeway League. Sunny Hills has looked even better, James. If you want to go to the one big common opponent game, there is a team in this league that is, third best by far. And that is, the team they just beat this past week. Fullerton. Yeah. And, if you remember, Fullerton had La Habra on the ropes, and La Habra had to go to overtime to win that game. Well, this past week, Sunny Hills just kind of took care of Fullerton. I think they beat him by almost 4 touchdowns.
Right.
So, who you picking? I'm going with Sunny Hills. I think, when you look at what they've done this spring and the way they're beating everyone, as impressive as La Habra has been, and I have them, the number 1 ranked team in our area, this could be a situation on Friday going into the final week where we see La Habra and possibly Damien both get beat in the final week. And then I have to make a decision on the final rankings on Monday, what we're going to do. But right now, the ball is in these teams' court. La Habra can close it out, being number 1 very easily with just a victory over Sunny Hills. But I'm taking Sunny Hills in this game, James. I think the time has arrived. So I was just pointing out La Habra. I think they've won the last 3 league titles, but I want to say they won 13 of the last 14.
Something like that. Yeah, I can't remember them ever losing one.
Yeah, Steve Fryer had pointed that out. I think in 2019 they'd won 12 of 13 and 2 in a row. Well, now it was 3 in a row, and 13 of 14. So that's the kind of ownership they've had in the Freeway League. Usually they play all their tough games in non-league, and then you have that break in the Freeway League before playoffs where they just kind of go through the emotions and beat everybody, and then the playoffs start. Well, not this time. This is the champion. This is the championship, biggest game of the year, and Sunny Hills is going to get them.
Okay,
it's just set up that way. Who are you taking?
Taking the champ. You got to beat the champ. To be the champ, you got to beat the champ. So I'm taking the champ, and I liked what I saw from La Habra in person and on defense. They are very, very good defensively, man. They probably are the best defensive unit I've seen this spring. And I've kind of seen everybody either on person or on tape, so to speak. So,
and it's getting long. I'll leave you with a final thought.
Please do, because I want to. Before you start there, Freddie, we have This is the 10th season of the 2-minute drills. Nice. You go back 10 years. You got, it was you and Steve and Aram Talesian. You guys started this. There's been one constant through it all, and that's been you. So, on behalf of, I've only been on for the last 3 years, and unfortunately, but I think Freddie, we do owe a tip of the cap to you. You were the one who started this idea back 10 years ago, and we're still doing it to this day.
Yeah, I don't know if I started it or if I was a part of it, but I've been with it. And all this means, James, is you're getting old. Anytime people
no. But it's a remarkable achievement. I know the fans love it because we go to these games, Freddie, and what do they always say? Hey, we saw like you picked against us in the 2-minute drill. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's funny. Over the years, I've had different places, put up signs. San Dimas actually in a championship game one time. When the cheerleaders put up their big signs and the players run through, it said this one's for you, SGBN Sports. I've kind of pasted it on my Twitter account different times over the years. It's funny, but they all get caught up. Predictions are what make everything fun, because this becomes bulletin board material sometimes. But we do it all in just a lot of good fun, James. That's really what it's all about. We try to add, I think, to the excitement of these Friday night games. But at the end of the day, it's the players and the coaches and the fans. I think we enjoy it just like they do.
We do. It's a great amount of fun. It's something a little something extra we get to do as we get to the season. I know Freddie had a final take on the year, so please go right ahead.
Yeah, well, we went at the top of the hour. We already kind of went over what the spring football season meant. At Sierra Vista, they're going to close out the season this week against Cerritos. They had another makeup game. They were supposed to play Gladstone. That didn't go off. I think Gladstone might even play a game this week against Azusa. I read that somewhere on Twitter where
That'd be crazy.
They're figuring out a way to play. That would be the team's only games. But Sierra Vista, let's go back. They had that great game against Monrovia. They beat El Rancho. Since 2019, when they came on, they were 0-18 the year before the Villa Seniors arrived, and that's Matt, the offensive coordinator, and his dad Sergio. They've done a tremendous job. Now there's some buzz in the air, James, that this is going to be the last game for both of them. I don't know where they're moving on to, but I think this is going to be it. And, for someone like Matt, who we see all over social media, he's the one who puts teams on the clock. I know you've taken some issue with it. He's a little braggadocious, obviously, to say the least, when he goes on there. But what they've done for Sierra Vista and putting them on the map and bringing some respectability to that program can't be denied. I don't know where he's going to wind up. I know, he'll probably start looking at schools and doing what he does. I'm talking about Matt. I don't know if Sergio will be the dad will be back coaching. He
had a heart attack, I believe, last fall,
yeah,
right?
and he's such a great guy. You talk to him on the phone. I can understand, and he's the one who doesn't get enough credit. We talk about Matt, but I was at that Baldwin Park game when they won it last year, and players will just run through a wall for that guy. He has a way of talking to you and speaking, and he can just get you so fired up. He's one of those guys, and I know he's really respected. Maybe he will come back and land somewhere else. But yeah, he's had he had the heart attack. He's had I want to say 3 bypass surgeries, and it's all about health for him. Let's live a long and happy life. And if he comes back and he's coaching football, then that's awesome. But I do think they are moving on from Sierra Vista. That's just the feeling that I'm getting or what I'm hearing. And if they come back, great. They keep the train rolling at Sierra Vista. But if they leave, I just want to have a chance now, since this is at the end of the year, to say that you guys, they did a great job. Even though they were a little tough on social media at times and they took it from other people, they did a great job. And I'm really curious to see if they leave, where they wind up, particularly Matt, because he's like a Robert Maxey, James, like it or not, that where he goes, players follow, and that's why they have a lot of success. Coaches are great. You as great a coach you are, you need the players. We say about Gaylor, you need the bullets. He brings the bullets to those coaching staffs. So wherever Matt winds up, whatever shape that team is in, they're going to be in better shape. So that's something to watch in the off season. What happens with the Sierra Vista situation and the coaching staff, and if Matt winds up somewhere else in our valley and we're still covering him, that would be interesting.
It will be. And I can just tell you from the West Side, I think the biggest news yesterday was the hiring of Jamal Adams as the principal over at LaSalle. Freddie, I think this is a game changer. I really do, because when you bring a coach into an administrative position, it just changes everything. You've seen it before too. Everything just, all of a sudden you see athletic teams become a lot more competitive. And I think you can't overstate enough that hire yesterday over at LaSalle. And I will say, let me just say this on behalf, I just think I think Matt has the right intentions, but you don't need to go on social media to do some of the things. You can do it another way and still get your players to play hard and everything else. That's just my opinion. That's an old school kind of take. It is, but what can't not be denied is the results that they've had the last 2 years. And and it's trickled down because soccer's done well, obviously, Freddie. They won a state regional, I believe, a couple of years ago. And so,
well, don't worry, James. I'm going to get the picture of you two hugging it out, and it's all going to be great in the off season.
sure, why not?
Hey, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the situation at LaSalle, getting the Loyola the Loyola coach. When that happened, and I know Eric Sondheimer had reported yesterday. I was looking at a lot of the comments from people at Loyola. The respect that they had for that man was just through the roof, and you nailed it. You look at any school that has a lot of success, it always starts at the top. Sometimes it starts, for public schools, it starts with your superintendent a lot of times and your principal. When you've got athletic people in those positions, it filters down to the rest of your program. LaSalle getting a principal like this is going to filter down to everything that they do at that school. I just think this totally changes the entire landscape from their football program to the basketball programs. Look, they're already starting on that upward trend, but now the sky's the limit.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. It will be, and I can't wait to
think of LaSalle. It's such a beautiful campus and great spot in Pasadena. It's one of those, why wouldn't you want to go there if you could go there, schools. I just think this sets it off for a new parochial power in Pasadena.
Doesn't it? It just seems that way. And I've known Jamal for quite a while. He, and I worked at Crespi. We used to always interact during the basketball games and everything. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, he took it pretty bad when he played against Pasadena in the first round of the playoffs, but beat them the next year. He is just a total class guy. And I think it's just a huge hire for the school as well. Freddie, we're gonna miss a lot of things, but one of the things we're not gonna miss on Friday night is the one-stop shop that you put together for everything that we do on Friday night for football.
Yeah, and we've got one more this Friday night, one-stop shop, where we'll wrap it all up. And what I do is I wrap up what happened on Thursday too, so you can kind of read all of our stories and you don't miss a thing. This is one of those years when Friday nights are not quite the same Friday nights because there's so many Thursday games and they've been Saturday games. So the one-stop shop is wrapping up the best of Thursday and Friday night and showing you all of the local scores. And that'll be up Friday, as always, around 11 o'clock. I'll tweet it out. But it's been fun, James, and we just got the engine started. It's going to start really roaring now after football because every sport imaginable is playing. And, what are we, mid-April? This ride through June is going to be fun, and it's going to be fast.
Oh, it sure be. And we will earn our vacation in July when it happens, Freddie. I will tell you that right now.
We'll be putting the football preview edition together in July. There is no
vacation. That's right. That's right. I keep forgetting about that. But
they start in August.
Oh, that's right.
Mid-August. Because the season extended, well into June. We were talking about this with some sports staff members. There's really no off season this year. We may have a couple weeks and then boom, we're working on the preview for the August editions.
Yeah, it will be fun.
But we had a lot of time off, and after what we've gone through this past year, all I can say is give me work. Let's go.
Exactly. Well, the old saying, I'll take the alternative. It beats the alternative. So we do want to mention one thing real fast, Freddie. We are running out of time because I do have another meeting to jump on. We missed somebody very, very badly that we lost during the pandemic. I know we want to say a few words about the late Roger Murray, who we lost in the fall. Anyone who's worked with Roger, who's been connected with Roger Murray, it hurt us hard.
Yeah, well, you kind of caught me by surprise with that one. But yeah, Roger, for people that most people don't know my story, my dad was a sports writer back. He was at the Star News even before he was at the Herald Examiner. Him and Roger go back a long, long way. They used to be bowling partners, my dad and mom, with him and his wife at the time. And when I started, the very first game I covered for the Tribune, and I covered it for Steve Hunt. He sent me out to an Arroyo game. This was before the Tribune and Star News had merged. We later had merged. We were separate entities. Roger was the sports editor at the Star News. And that was the first game I ever covered. It was a Royal Temple City game. And I saw Roger, and he came out and saw me. And he looked at me like, you sure you want to get into this, kid? You know, and he helped me through that game, that first game, you know, keeping stats and doing things. And, you know, we wound up merging, and he wound up moving to the Whittier Daily News, and we both started covering high schools for, I want to say 10 to 15 years together. And he was a real mentor, and he loved high school sports like no one other. That was his passion project for life. He never wanted, he knows a lot like me, you know. He enjoyed his pro sports and watching them, and you know, sometimes those are hard to cover when you're so passionate about them. So what do we have as the alternative as sports writers? And that's to cover the local community and your high school teams. And that worked out great for him in his career, and it's been the same for me. And yeah, you know, we're really going to miss. Everyone's going to miss Roger Murray. He gave
But he had the best line, Freddie. We always use it to this day.
Beats working for a living.
Isn't that the truth? It really does. I get reminded of that every time I go to a sporting game.
Every time with Roger, when you would start complaining, God, say, God, I did this and this, and I worked this, and you say, God, I'm just so tired. He just look at you and say, hey, it beats working for a living.
You're damn right it does, you know, and so we miss Roger. I know that the first guy that he when he got to heaven was Mary Nansich, the head coach of St. Paul. I saw those two; they were two to the hip, and they are having a wonderful time this spring watching all the football, you know, from our area and everything. So we just wanted to mention that quickly. Freddie, I will be talking to you by the phone, and we may have, you know, I think we will probably do something before the baseball playoffs or the basketball playoffs. We'll just, you know, do a small video and get going here, so to speak. But it has been a pleasure again. Congratulations on 10 great years with the 2-minute drill. You know, maybe next year we'll get Aram and Steve to come on for one, and because they've been a big part of it, just as you have. And I know the fans in the Valley appreciate
that. Would be fun. That would be fun to bring Aram and Steve on
just for one time, and just give it the old one time for the old boys, because they were as big a part of it as me or anybody else. So we'll work on that as we get to the fall, so to speak. But enjoy the action on Friday, everybody, or Thursday or Saturday, and we will talk to you soon. Until then, sayonara for now.
See you later.